we've been doing this a year and a half, and it's not often that we get nervous about legal stuff. And we've never had an attorney on the program. And so we have our first attorney, and we're nervous about legal stuff that could have come out during this conversation.
I think we're going to be okay.
Let's start with bringing you home. I'm going to keep calling you Cheeks. I'll try to be professional about this, but Mark Chieco, he's Cheeks. We've known him since college. Kelly Warhurst, St. John Fisher, now university. When we were there, it was just a lowly college.
It was just college.
So we finished up college. Mark went to Albany Law.
Yes.
Finished up there and then came home. So talk about that journey. What brought you home?
So I moved home in 2007. I had, after college, which I was thinking about it this morning, we're coming up on 30 years of friendship this year.
Crazy,
That's
right?
crazy, isn't it?
30 years ago, it'll be in the fall that we met. So after college, I went to law school in Albany. I stayed there for, I want to say 10 years. After I was in Albany 10 years. And then when my wife and I found out we were having our first kid, an offer presented itself for me to come home to work at a firm here in Utica, and we thought it would be awesome. Both of our parents are still here. Our families were still here, and so we decided to move home. I always knew I'd come back.
Yeah.
Like, when you talk about people that are Utica.
Yeah.
Yeah, you define Utica.
I'm Utica.
It's so funny that you said that because I was thinking this morning and in my 4 minutes of preparation for this interview, I'm like, when I think Utica, I think Mark Chieco. And maybe that's because, we went away to college together to meet a guy from Utica, but you just, in all the good ways.
Yeah.
You remind me of Utica.
And it's funny because most people, because I'm a short Italian guy, think I'm from Frankfurt.
You spent a few nights there.
Yeah,
we welcome you.
My family's from Frankfurt.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. So it's funny. That's what actually brought us back too, was our first son, Tyler.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it, like your upbringing. And then when you're going to have your own kids, you sort of want them to be brought up in the same community.
Yes, have the same things that we had, the same experiences.
Yeah.
And, lucky for us, like, go to the same places.
Yeah.
Like, the first place that my parents ever brought me as a baby was Politary Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought both my kids. I still go almost every Saturday.
Church.
Yeah.
One of our friends calls it church. He goes to church.
I go for on Tuesdays for lunch with my buddy Ben, and I go on Saturdays with my father and my boys.
Yeah. That's funny. But you didn't go back to Utica. See, your kids are at VVS.
My kids are at VVS.
When Kelly and I came back in 2006, we said only under one condition. We're not sending our kids to Frankfurt. We're just not going to do it. And we looked in New Hartford, we looked in Clinton, we looked in Whitesboro.
We even looked in Utica. We
looked in
over
North Utica.
North
And we bought a house in Frankfurt.
Yeah, we did.
And we said it's just temporary. And that was 20 whatever years ago.
But there's something to be said about what we know.
Yeah.
It's going to the same, like I said, going to the same places. And when we moved back, we moved to Sherrill. And Sherrill is, I call it Mayberry. It's literally the greatest place in the world to live. I lived in the city of Sherrill for 11 years. I couldn't tell you how many times I locked my door. It was probably less than 5. Yeah. The kids can run all over, and there was always somebody there who either had an eye on them or could tell you what was going on. There is zero crime. It literally is like Mayberry. Everybody knows everybody, but it wasn't like high school where everyone was in everyone's business. It was just a great place to live.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your boys. You have two sons, right?
I have 2 sons, Jack and Anthony.
I think we ran into him at Accelerate once or for a sporting event. I think so. They play sports.
Yep. They
heavy in sports.
Yep. They both play baseball. Jack's a junior this year.
Okay.
He plays baseball and runs indoor track. That's where I ran into Scott. And Anthony has played basketball, football. Now he does indoor track with his brother, and they're both just mainly baseball players now.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
They're good boys.
Like good baseball. Like you're
Yeah, my older son, he's
you can brag.
Yeah, he's most likely going to play in college somewhere. Last year he won Rookie of the Year for, I think it was Section 3 or the Tri-Valley League, one of the two, I don't remember. but American Legion, he plays travel ball. He's played all over the country.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're kind of deep in the recruiting circuit right now.
Process,
I
don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this,
No.
but it is fascinating because tell me if you've gone there. There's whole companies, programs that,
Yes.
and now with the advancement of video and these highlight reels and video, it's just so much. We used to send our cassette tapes, right,
Yes,
to Fisher.
we had VHS tapes, and we had Coach Scacchetti come and be like, okay, we want you to come play here. And I was okay, that was it.
Yeah.
Like I had nowhere else that I was going to go because it was, Zach was there, my best friend from high school. We knew other people there, and that's where I was going. Here, with the recruiting, especially with the transfer portal and everything that's going on, it's very foreign to me. Like we've been going to schools for visits and camps and all of this stuff, and people are talking scholarships and money and like
It's
we
crazy.
We didn't have to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very stressful.
And a lot of these kids are committing before their senior year even.
That for baseball, they want you,
That's what I'm
in
saying.
the fall of your junior year.
Yeah.
And that probably changes how their senior year goes, which is a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
Especially if you're like a pitcher, because
Yes.
I'm sure the college is very protective of now it's your senior year, teams, trying to make some moves, and you're the prima donna who can only get so many innings. Or
Yes. I've seen some of that.
yeah, I'm sure. All right, let's talk. Let's
law.
talk career. Let's talk law.
All right.
It's a funny conversation. Insurance guy and an attorney. We just blame each other for everything wrong in the world all day long. I'm like, well, that's the attorneys, and Cheeks is like, no, it's the insurance guy.
Well, I mean, I did spend 15 years as a defense attorney for insurance companies. So
let's talk about what had you go out on your own.
So after being an attorney for, I want to say it was 19 years at the time that I went out on my own, I realized that, sometimes when you are, beholden to other people or other organizations, you don't get to represent people the way that you want. One of my big things now is because I'm out on my own and, I'm the head guy, I get to tell people what they need to hear, not always what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that it makes everything go much smoother. One of the big things about having your own business, and you know this from what you do, is you heavily rely on your reputation.
Sure.
You rely on your word. You have to keep your word. And when you tell people or things that, expectations that may not be realistic, or when you have to tell somebody, not every case is $1 million case. Not every case is a case worth taking. And I think people respect you more for your honesty than, having to chase every nickel. One of the things I've kind of, prided myself on is there are cases I will turn down. If I don't know how to do something, I'm not going to ask somebody to pay me to learn.
Right.
After 22 years, I know what I know. And, I'm consider myself pretty good at it. So I will stick to what I know. If someone comes in and says, I have a complex tax issue, I'm not your guy.
You're not a tax attorney.
I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not your guy. And a lot of times people, we're all chasing the same nickel. So it's hard to turn down business sometimes, but
Sure.
When you rely on your reputation and you rely on your good name in the community, I think you earn that respect a little bit more by saying, hey, I can't do this, but I can point you to someone who can.
Yeah.
Or if someone says, hey, I need insurance on this, or my insurance company just dropped me, the first answer is call my buddy Scott.
Yeah.
It's
We're probably the ones that dropped them, though.
you develop a network,
Right.
and it's kind of like
Sure.
what we were talking about the other night at the track meet. Is you have all these people, and because we grew up here, you know so many more people.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Albany, I had a group of friends that were Albany guys who I got to meet a lot of people, but I was never going to be an Albany guy. And I didn't have all those relationships
Yeah.
or the network to say, oh, I got a guy for this, I got a guy for that.
So I love that you brought that up because we've been doing this a year and a half, and we hear all the different things that people love about living local. And I struggle. It's always the food and the same crap, right? But every once in a while, I can't remember who said it, but someone said, "I like that Utica is big, but not too big."
Mm-hmm.
And you just summarized that perfectly. In that, there's enough going on where it's there's stuff going on, but it's not too big. And being from here, you're right. You start building those connections, and now you're going to go through it with your kids. We're starting to go through it with ours. We've got one in college, one looking at colleges. We were just in Florida. I don't know why we came back. We're recording this during the blizzard of 2025, but
Snowvid, I think they were
but
calling it.
That's a good one.
our son is a senior now, and he goes, I would love to live in a place like this. We're in Lauderdale.
He wants to golf every
He
day.
goes, I can golf. I can, he likes to run. He likes to, he likes to be at the beach. He's like, he goes, but I'd miss home. And he goes, there's just a lot of things I like about home. He goes, I just hate the weather. And so we have that legacy piece. We're all at this table, second, third generation here.
Mhm.
And we're not gonna push our kids to do anything, but we've built a reputation and name, and that's something. So I don't know. That was just a commentary.
And the
I had no
networking
question
is
there.
so important. Like he said, like you're passionate about your own career. And when you have customers or people or friends that ask you for recommendations for a service in another industry, that networking is so important, that you want to give them to people that you know will take care of them. Also, giving back to the community is huge. Do you want to talk about the city of Utica, the position that you hold there?
Sure. I'm also the assistant corporation counsel for the city of Utica.
What does that mean?
The city of Utica has a law department, obviously, that handles all of the city's legal matters. I head up the codes department, so I am the attorney for the city for all things related to codes within the city. Whether it is a violation for a porch that's falling down, or it could be not cutting your grass,
Yeah,
or
could be a lot of
just
things.
building. It's a lot of things that happen in the city, but a lot of it is making sure that the city looks the way it's supposed to. And I don't want to say holding people accountable, because it's a sense of pride for the people who live there. There's the broken window rule. If you let a broken window slide, first it's a broken window, and then it's a door falling off the hinges, and it just keeps getting worse. And we've taken the codes department, and they do an excellent job. I can say, in my private practice, I used to deal with codes enforcement officers all the time. And in every other municipality that I've ever dealt with across the state, codes officers generally have the same personality, right? They're sticklers. They're letter of the law. There's no wiggle room. Our codes officers are great because they will listen to people. They work with people, and it's not all about dropping the hammer on somebody. It's what can we do to help you get this done? Because a large population in Utica are elderly people, and especially right now, there's a city ordinance that says you have to shovel your sidewalk. Well, for example, my father's almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not letting him go out there and shovel. For me, I got to do it. But when people come into court, we give them a little grace. But part of it is, there's also services that we can set them up with that will help them.
Right.
Whether it's from the DPW at the city, or, for example, the Proctor football team was out shoveling sidewalks the other day.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
As a team building event, but also a community building event.
Yeah, community service for sure.
VVS football did it too. It's not as many sidewalks in Sherrill, but Utica has a little more. But I saw that Proctor was out there. That's
awesome.
The kids are out there,
So let's get back to your private practice.
Sure.
Chieco Law Group is the official name, right?
Yes, sir.
So you specialize in what? Like,
I do
what are
mostly-
people calling you for?
I do mostly civil litigation, a lot of personal injury work. I will do some contract work, any general civil matters that you have. I do a fair amount of real estate. I have I would say my criminal practice is a little smaller than the other two, and then I will do some corporate work.
Okay.
Well,
Pretty much what my sister just went through. Neighbors fighting over property and driveways and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a whole thing.
Yeah, that
we
was
should
the
have
whole
brought
thing.
you into that, or maybe it's good that we didn't.
It was good that we didn't bring him into that. All right, so let's talk about your other passion, weightlifting, youth sports. Talk a little bit about that.
Let's go with the youth sports first.
Okay.
So, I played football with Scott in college. I've always been active, and I'll be the first one to say that I sucked at every sport I ever played.
That's not true.
No, it is. I was on the football team, especially in college, just to hang out with my buddies. Like, I was serviceable. Like, I was never going to be a starter. I was never going to be a star. But I feel that being on a team creates, a sense of community. It teaches you how to interact with people. It teaches you social skills. It teaches you, it gives you a core group of friends that you can have for the rest of your life. My friends from high school that I played football with, we still have a group text that we talk every day. Yep. We're going away to Nashville in May for a guy's trip. And then I had my boys. And I was like, all right, they wanted to play football. So it started with Pop Warner. And look at me. I wasn't a basketball player, so I was never going to be a basketball coach. My kids aren't basketball players. So I had a conversation with their mother and said, if they're going to play football, especially my younger one, I'm going to coach them because I want to be able to be the one that teaches them. I know something about it. I know how to keep them safe. I know how to win and lose. And, truthfully, it's a privilege to help them grow. And then it went from, I coached Pop Warner for 9 years, and then it went to Little League Baseball, which I'll be honest, I really didn't love coaching Little League Baseball.
It's intense.
My older
Scott
son
loved it.
It's just stressful, though.
My older son and I, we had some battles when I was his coach. I think I actually threw him out of an all-star game when he was in 6th grade.
I tossed my daughter out of a basketball practice once, for sure.
And after that, I said, I'm not coaching him anymore. 2-3 years goes by. He joins the Utica Hurricanes travel baseball team. And it was coached by Joe Marino, who's been one of my dear friends my whole life. And he played for a year, and then Joe came to me and said, do you want to coach? Thought about it. I talked to Jack about it. And at first, they brought me in as the strength and conditioning coach for the team. And then it turned into the bench coach. I was like the Don Zimmer of travel baseball. And then it morphed into my new title was the attitude adjustment coach.
That's great.
Which was great. And travel baseball, coaching that for me was, I actually get like chills talking. I loved it. It was so much better than football because we traveled with the boys and we traveled with the families. Yeah. And our Hurricane family was literally like one big family. We had kids that I grew up with and went to high school with. We had Dominican families. We had African-American families. We had every kind of people from all over. It wasn't just Utica. And we'd go away for weeks at a time, and we'd be together 18 hours a day.
Yep.
And you get so much more time with the boys that it makes it so much more worthwhile. Like you feel like you're actually imparting wisdom on them and telling
character.
them.
You are.
For sure, you're helping build your character.
I got so close with all my Hurricane boys that I will follow them wherever they go. Like one of my boys, he's a senior at Proctor this year. I've been taking him to colleges for visits. I took him to get his driver's license. Like I really do love these kids. One of the kids from Rome who we had for a couple of years, I still go watch him play. Yep. They're just great boys.
Do they still have access to the attitude adjustment portion of the program?
Absolutely.
Whether they want it or not.
Absolutely.
How often was that used? I mean, it's
quite a bit.
The testosterone that these boys have running through them at that age.
When you have, a team full of I'll call them Utica's premier baseball players. Like
high performers.
We handpicked these kids to play for us because we knew that they could play. And you have multiple D1 athletes that we had, multiple D2, D3, just great players. But when you have kids that are that good and you see them try and act like MLB players and doing things on the field, there was a lot of attitude adjustment. And there was days where, I'll be honest, I I lost my cool. and there was also times where I had parents that wouldn't talk to me for 2 months after.
Yeah, well, that's par for the course.
You know what? Every one of the kids, all of them still text me on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day.
That's awesome.
And it's great. Like one of them just had their senior night at Proctor for basketball, and they announced me as part of his family, what's better than that, man?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's amazing. And,
Yeah.
and I've said often, and that's why as stressful as Little League was, it was awesome because there's no greater metaphor for life than baseball.
Yep.
And these kids, especially at that age and even the age you're talking about, a lot of them, especially the good ones, they haven't experienced failure or competitive. They were just the shortstop because, and so I say all the time, winning is easy, losing, you find out what you're made of.
Yep.
Right. And what you've got.
Baseball is the only sport where if you fail 7 out of 10 times,
Yep.
you're going to the Hall of
You had
Fame.
a great season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just you. It's a team sport,
hard.
but it's just you're the only one in the batter's box.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one on the mound. You're the only one that got the ground ball to third, right? You're the only one that made that throw just now. So
Absolutely.
it's certainly a team sport, but when you're
The spotlight
vested
is on
in the
you.
team and then the spotlight's on you and you mess up, that could be tough. And you got to go see the attitude adjustment coach.
Yeah.
That's probably why you guys won so much.
Yeah.
It's probably why you're an attorney now.
Yep.
Well, you were an attorney at the time.
Yeah, at one point for, a lowly team from Utica, New York, we were ranked in, I want to say, the top 200 in the country
That's awesome.
for our age group. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not want to talk about powerlifting? We don't have to.
No, powerlifting was a big part of my life. I was
How many years? You were competitive
I was competitive for 10 years. Usually I lead up with when I say that I sucked at every sport. I didn't start competing at powerlifting until I was 36, and I finally found something I was good at. And it was something that just came naturally to me.
It's got to be a great release,
is.
Especially with what you deal with on a daily basis.
Yes. Some people drink, some people do drugs, some people go to therapy. I used to lift up heavy things.
There you go.
And I had a great run. I got to lift all over the country. I got invited to lift all over the world. At one point, I want to say it was 2018, I was the number 3 ranked bench presser in the world at 242 pounds. I was the number 10 ranked overall lifter in the world for any age group. And then still to this day, I have the second highest total in the history of powerlifting for a master's lifter all time.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah, I was following you on social, and I saw you were doing some big things. I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're world renowned.
Yeah. I mean, who would ever thought that people would have paid me to go lift weights places? It was great.
Honestly, if I had to pick one person, it'd be you. You've always had a knack for, like, everyone likes Chieco.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Always smiling.
And like, you do unite people. And you like everyone, and you're very diverse. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about some crazy stuff that we won't talk about here, and you'll be right on it, right? And then we could talk about professional stuff, which this has been a very professional conversation. I don't know if I'm excited or disappointed by that, but yeah, I know you wore a suit coat.
We had the conversation before that. If anything illegal was said, we'd have to edit it out. So we're trying to limit that.
But no, it's awesome. I guess what was one big takeaway from that season of your life? Like what that one moment that
sticking with it, because in the beginning, I'll tell you that when I came up, I was known just as a bench presser, like a bench press specialist. But I wanted to become a good squatter and a good deadlifter. Fighting through pain, squatting was the biggest thing. You could put 800 pounds on your back, sit down. It's real easy to not get back up. But once you start pushing, you feel that pain, and if I go just a little bit more, I'm going to stand up. And that's kind of like what you do with life, whether it's relationships or parenting or work. And because, especially as an attorney, there are days that suck, right? There are cases that you thought were great cases that become not so great, or you deal with a lot of pressure. Like when people entrust in you, their well-being or their financial well-being or protecting them, it's a very heavy burden. not to use a pun here,
Yeah,
what we're
but
talking
it
about.
fits,
But it's a heavy burden because you have to put your best foot forward to make sure not only you're doing a great job for them, but it has to be the right job. You hard work isn't always the answer. It's hard work and smart work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that you went there. So I don't listen to Joe Rogan only because his podcasts are like 3-4 hours long. I just don't have the time. Well, we happened to have a 3-hour flight yesterday, and he popped up with David Goggins. Now, David Goggins, as you know, absolute animal. But one thing that he talked about yesterday, and I'd like your take on it, is people look at the physical things, true torture. I mean, he's running on like broken feet and just ridiculous stuff. 80 miles a day.
Have you read his books?
The most recent one I have not. I read You Can't Hurt Me.
Tremendous.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is because, he said he does this. People look at the physical stuff and they think, oh, he's a Navy SEAL, whatever. He goes, but I do it because that's the only way you can get to the dark matter in your head. He says, when you bring yourself to the point of physical exhaustion and pain and just wanting to quit and you keep going, he goes, that's when you find out what's in your head. And then you got to work through some things that come up in your head. And so, you kind of alluded to it, but talk to me about the mental piece of this.
It can bring you to a dark place because when you're that exhausted and you're pushing through something, whether it's lifting weights or work or running, and usually I'll listen to a Goggins book when I'm on the treadmill, which thankfully recently I've started doing a little bit more. But it's hard because when you hold 600 pounds over your face, right? You know that if you have one little misstep or one miscue or you misgroove the way you go down or your wrist bends, you're dead. Like dropping 600 pounds on your face is not good. And, a lot of people talk about positive mental imaging, right? Envisioning your success. People, and I've been asked this before, when you're lifting, what do you envision? That's what I would envision. As I would go to that dark place and I would picture me dropping the weight. And I always felt like by seeing that, it kept it from happening, right? Okay. Because I was cognizant of it. I was making sure I did everything right. And it's when you get too comfortable with it, when you don't respect it, that's when something bad happens. And that's the same thing with everything. That's the way, with work, if I got a checklist of things to do and some of them are mundane, if you don't have that mentality where you go through every one, you're going to miss something. And if you miss something, case gets dismissed or you lose. Yeah. And then how do I explain that to my client? So that's why, you take those two things and you use them to, I guess, be your guiding principle.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good word.
Well, so you talk about that envisioning stuff, and then in your part of your key message is a fresh perspective. What does that mean to you? Like, especially when it comes to your law practice and Utica.
Yep.
And
it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear or what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear, because for my law practice, a lot of times I'm on the outside looking in, right? So I learn, facts or information, from my own investigation or from what my client tells me. And then when I look at something and, inevitably my client always knows more about what actually happened than I'll ever know, right? And not to say that people don't tell the truth, but, sometimes people forget details. So,
that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, when I get to look at something from the outside coming in, I get that, neutral perspective. I may tailor my arguments to support their position, but you have to look at it from that neutral perspective. And from doing defense work for as many years as I did, I do see both sides. Like, I see where the positives are, where the negatives are, where's my area of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting balance of offense and defense. So we'll go back to football analogy here. When you look at both sides of something as an attorney, how much are you preparing for what's going to come your way or preparing for what you're going to send to the other side?
It's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
Because if you get too heavy on the offense, you're going to miss something on the defense. Yeah. And to go back to football, it's if I want to send, all my receivers and my tight end out, I got to make sure that I'm keeping my linemen in, right? Or that somebody's the running back stays in to protect the quarterback. So when you hammer something too hard, there's going to be some leakage, and you have to maintain that or contain that rather.
Yeah. All right, what's the future hold for the law firm?
I'm never going to be able to retire.
Don't say never.
2 boys going to college. We want to keep growing.
Yeah.
We're going to take on more cases. The real estate aspect of the firm has grown a ton in the last year. I've gotten the privilege to work with some really great real estate agents, again, which comes as part of that network.
Yeah.
It was, one of them is a dear friend from high school that came to me once and said, "Hey, I'm in a bind. Can you help?" Absolutely. And then another one is one of my best friends from high school who sends me files. And then the third one that I probably get the most from is, a dear for someone who I almost consider a sister, who really got me into doing real estate. So that's grown by a bunch. We're taking personal injury cases. People are, word of mouth has been great just because of, like what you said, who I am.
Yep.
People like me. People trust me. And, I take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, that's earned. It doesn't happen by mistake or accident. Yeah. It's been like 30-something minutes. We try to keep these to half an hour, but, sometimes you get caught up.
Now it's the fun part, right?
Wrap it up, man.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked it.
We're not done yet. We got our rapid fire 5.
Yeah. This is
where it gets weird. We're going back to Ward 4.
Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
No, don't. You cannot say anything about
You were
that.
Ward 2 guy our freshman year, weren't you?
Freshman year, I wasn't. Well, my room was on Ward 2. I think I spent most of the time in your room or your suite mate's room, and just sleeping on a couch. But yeah.
See, I was in Haffy. You board boys were over.
You
there.
weren't there yet.
I was on Haffy my freshman year.
That's where I was
Yes,
Haffy.
I was in
That's
Haffy.
okay. Well, I knew you weren't a Ward 4 guy.
I was in Haffy my freshman year, and then I went to Ward 4 my sophomore year. For some reason, they made me an RA my junior year.
Oh my God.
That's why we stopped hanging out.
I'm convinced to this day, and if anyone from Fisher's listening, they might be able to collaborate. They made me an RA so I would stop breaking things.
It is fantastic.
But did you? You're outside the statute of limitations.
Oh my gosh.
I do believe that I was the only RA that got written up that year.
You are who you
Who
are.
showed you up? Another RA?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Can't trust
Okay.
them.
Let's get going with it. The best place in the 315 to grab a bite after a long day.
Joey's 307.
Okay.
Joey's gets a lot of love when we ask that question.
I am telling you, we like Joey's a lot too.
And then we go, we should go to Joey's. And then we do, and we love it. And we go, we should come here more often. Then we don't. And now you said it, so we'll go back.
And Matt's been a great friend of mine since high school.
See, we went to high school with Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle's a Frankfurt girl.
And when he started cooking, when he first had the diner, and he was in the car business, and I went to eat there, and I said, "This is amazing." I said, "Where'd you learn how to cook like this?" He goes, Cheeks, I'm a man of many talents. So then, when he opened Joey's, we would go there, and I've had pretty much everything on the menu there. There's actually a pizza named after me on the lunch menu.
What's the name of it?
The Chieco.
Oh, okay. Well, you got a few different names.
Yeah. I've never had a bad meal there. It's my go-to. It's definitely my favorite place.
We got to get people to get the Chieco. We need to up the amount of orders we get for that one. All right, if you could coach any sport professionally, what would it be?
Baseball.
A lot of travel.
Yep.
All right. Max bench and squat. What does that mean?
I usually go first, so that was going to be mine. But
I have no idea. Well, it's kind of funny.
The most he's ever benched and the most he's ever squatted.
Oh, all right.
So when I competed in powerlifting, there's two separate divisions. There's a raw bench press, which you just lay down and you bench, and there's one. It's called equipped, where you put on it's like a canvas shirt that assists you. My best raw bench press in a meet was 575. In the gym, it was 600. And then in a shirt, it was 865.
Jeez.
That is insane.
And then my best raw squat was 805.
Wow.
So that's when you put the weights on your shoulder.
Shoulders, squat down. You got to hit a certain part. They yell at you, and you can.
And then you can spring back
And then
up.
you stand up.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
new today.
We've seen you at a bunch of these, but what's your favorite local event or festival, something in the Utica, Rome area that you try not to miss ever?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably the Mount Carmel Feast.
Yeah.
Do you run the Boilermaker?
He's done.
I
I've
used
seen
to.
him. I ran into him.
I did it.
I remember seeing you.
I ran the Boilermaker, the full one, 3 or 4 times, and then I've done the 5K
Yeah.
a bunch.
We were on the bus together at the Heart Run many years ago.
Yep.
Oh my God, you're
Yep.
right.
Yep. That was pre-powerlifting.
Yeah.
That was when I was in my running like Spartan races and doing CrossFit phase.
That's cool.
Now, when you're Mark Chieco, you don't hide in a crowd well,
No.
right? A lot of people
I have a distinct body type.
doppelgangers. I don't know if you do, maybe, but I share that because I'm not a runner, but I've done like 15 Boilermakers. I've hated them all, and you're sweaty, you're disoriented, you're thinking about the next hill, whatever. And I'm like, looking up ahead, I'm like, that's Chieco. You were wearing like a Boston Celtics jersey.
Always with a Boston Celtics jersey, lumbering around. And I remember, I think it was the last Boilermaker, and a friend of mine was there, and I was like, man, I can't believe how much my shoulders hurt. Why do my shoulders hurt from running? He goes, because you're carrying those tree trunks around on your arms, swinging them for 9 miles. Of course they hurt.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's too funny. I remember that we did run into you, Boilermaker. Okay, you have a day off in the 315. What are you doing? Complete day.
Well, I'm obviously going to the gym to start the day. And then probably picking an off the beaten path spot for lunch.
Ooh, you got one? We love these.
I've been on a Mediterranean kick lately.
Uh-huh.
So I've been going to Zena's a lot lately. The Phoenician Carums. The Phoenician buffet is outstanding.
Where is that?
It's on Burstone Road. Or French Road.
Right. It's right near the Home Depot there.
Yes.
Okay.
French
Yeah.
Road.
And then I've heard great stuff about Carums as well. That's in that Whitestown Plaza, right?
No, that's Grapevine.
Oh,
Or-
okay. Or Karma, or okay.
Carums is on
Who's
Chapman.
on first?
Okay.
Carums is on Chapman in New
Oh,
York
okay.
Mills.
All right.
And the Grapevine is in New Hartford Shopping Center.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes, okay.
Just to
We
clarify.
got a couple good spots now.
Yep. After lunch, I'll probably go take a nap and then have to drive my kids somewhere for sports.
We were
Yeah.
just talking about that, this whole dynamic of work from home, work from the office. Cheeks is like, if I work from home, I'd nap more than I should.
I mean, if you have the option to take a nap, I'm going to take a nap.
I am not a napper. Scott loves a power nap.
I do. I mean,
Yeah.
He loves it.
He's at the gym. He's lifting 800 pounds. Give the guy a nap.
I actually
It's fine
learned,
if you can do it.
I learned my power napping at Fisher because we'd be up all night playing video games in Scott's room.
Drinking water.
Drinking water. And then, I figured out that if I could get back to my room during the day and sleep for 20 minutes, I'd be good for like 2 or 3 hours.
That is crazy that you guys do that. And set an alarm for like 20 minutes or
20.
15.
I was setting an alarm for 6 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
And I could fall asleep.
And he's out. And he does this when he goes to bed too. I'm like, how can you just shut your body down like that?
It's
an art.
gift. It's a
an
gift.
art.
It was easier when I was younger. But
Yeah.
I remember being top bunk, Ward 409. I'd be like, oh, I got like 6 minutes before I have to leave. Set an alarm, lights out.
So stupid. There you go.
Oh, man. All right, man. How do people find you on social, on the interwebs? Where do people
So
find you?
my personal Instagram is at @mchieco, and Instagram for the law firm is @Chieco Law. I have a Facebook page that is the Chieco Law Group, and then Mark Chieco just on Facebook.
All right. And the website for the law firm.
www.chiecolaw.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks, brother. This was when we started doing this, you were on our short list.
You were definitely on our list of people.
No
we
pun
had to-
intended.
No pun intended.
I wish it was, because that's pretty good. You were on our short list, and then for whatever reason, we never got to you. And so I'm glad we ran
And then
into you
Scott got a
at
hold of
a
you at the
track meet.
and he said, "I've got him. He's coming in."
They're
I said, "That's
announcing
great."
the kids, and I hear Chieco, not a common name, right? And so I'm like, oh my god, like that's Cheek's kid. And then I literally turn around, there's like 700 people there, and you're standing right there. So good stuff, man.
All right.
Thank you.